I'm not that good at pretending things, so instead of pretending that I'm sending this text, I'll just tell you I already sent a text to the guy in response to his text that the plane is a go from Alaska. I'm not sure how I feel about that, um, but here's what we got. I've got a hold of the guy out there in Alaska, and he said he can keep it there a couple more months if you want to put me on the books. Okay, sounds good. I will start looking for a load going up, estimated within 2 months, hopefully less, no absolute guarantee. The one down payment that I will require is for the bond for transport through Canada. This is called a single trip bond. Some carriers carry a permanent bond, but those are much larger carriers who can afford that. I do not need that until I am a couple days out from pickup. There is a way that you can make the payment directly to the bond agency if you feel more comfortable with that. The cost of that is going to be 12% of the value of the plane plus about $200 that is non-refundable. You get the 12% back once the plane enters the lower 48. To facilitate the bond, I will need any documentation that you can provide showing the value of the plane. If you can't provide documentation, I can simply provide a number to the bond agency and see if they go for it. In my experience, the agency really doesn't care what the number is, and the Canadian government doesn't care either, as long as it has been handled through the agency. But if I just show up at the border without paperwork from a bond agency, they will not be happy. I know that for a fact. Let me know if you need anything else. Thanks. So, this is very reminiscent of how things escalated last time around when I went from, just a guy who had been working through word of mouth, small deliveries, and all of a sudden, got one run done to Alaska and then booked two more, one for $10,000, one for $17,000. And I invested in a bunch of equipment and everything else, and I was doing everything properly, going the commercial route, paying for commercial insurance, submitting all of the documents, everything else that needed to be done, and then my insurer did not file paperwork properly. It's a little bit more complex than that, but not a whole lot. There was actually a two-way issue, starting with the government agency making a small mistake, requiring new insurance. The insurance company didn't see why they would need it, so they just didn't send it. That shut down my business literally the day of departure with my $17,000 load to Alaska. I'd already been paid half of it. It created a massive fiasco, absolutely massive. I have a whole separate video on that. I won't get into it here. But this is what gives me so much pause about trying to call myself a commercial transporter or let anyone else call me a commercial transporter. I can do everything right and be shut down because of somebody else's mistake and really have very little practical and immediate recourse for that. There's always court later, but as far as the practical immediate resolution of the problem, it doesn't exist. If the corporation I'm doing business with, in other words my insurance company, doesn't want to do things the right way, or they don't want to acknowledge that they messed up, and they just say, sorry, you're out of luck, then guess what? I'm just out of luck. I want to keep things in my own hands this time. And, if my vehicle breaks down or if I have some other issue, that's on me. I told him during our phone conversation yesterday, I do not carry cargo insurance. It's not a deal breaker for every customer. You'd think it would be, but it's not a deal breaker for every customer. To me, honest communication is key. Setting the right expectations is key. Communicating is key. And taking risks is also key. That's how you grow a business. You need to take risks. With every step along the way comes a new risk, but also comes new benefits. And you try to take risks that are worth it and that you're willing to take. And then, what it really boils down to is taking everything slowly along the way, taking everything carefully. It's It's not the big decisions that get you. It's the little mistake that you make as you're literally loading up the person's item. It's not strapping it right. It's getting angry because you got stuck behind somebody slow and now you're trying to drive too fast, and it's those things that usually result in problems. Every once in a while, something that's outside of your control happens, but most of the time, the things that happen because you're not being careful in the little things. So I'm kind of proceeding, and I'm just making this up on the spot here, but I'm proceeding with the attitude that I'm going to take the big risks and be careful in the little things. Be careful on the little step-by-step procedural things where I need to make sure I do everything right along the way. Stop and check my load, restrap, make sure the straps are right in the first place, obviously, all of those things. And there's very few situations that you can't handle if you just show up ready to be patient, ready to stay cool, and ready to communicate with the people who are directly in front of you along the way. Even the border crossing agents, even when I showed up with a whole airplane and no bond, and they were not happy, but I got through that situation. And now this time, I'm learning from that, and I'm going to make sure there's a bond in place. And that's just a matter of communicating the expectation to the customer. Because last time we could have had a bond in place, but, I felt like, oh, my customer isn't going to want to shell out that money up front. He's never met me. Why would he trust me for all that? And this time it's just like, I have more of the attitude, I can go without this. So I quoted him a price still too low. I really should have quoted him like $1.25, $1.50 a mile. I quoted him $1 a mile. My mentality on that is, at least I know it's just straight paid mileage for over 3,000 miles. No detours, no off route, no additional mileage, no layover time, nothing, just 1 week. And I should have like $2,000 to show at the end of it, which, when you really think about it, is not a huge salary. $2,000 a week times 54 weeks is just over $100,000. But obviously there's expenses. When you're operating a vehicle, you're not keeping every cent that comes in above gas costs. So really $2,000 show for after gas, but I need to set aside $500 of that for vehicle expenses, other things. So $1,500 a week, 52 weeks, that's like $78,000 a year. For how challenging the job is, that's just a normal salary, right? I wouldn't really know. I've never worked a job that had a normal salary, but that's kind of like what you expect to make anymore if you're doing something that takes any skill at all. So, but at least I didn't shortcut things like the bond, and I just set those expectations. I was thinking I could charge him like 90 cents a mile and be happy. No, $1. I should have gone higher, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But, the fact is, I had the mentality, I can do without this. And so I'm going to tell him everything that needs to be said up front, instead of like, trying to get by without the bond, or trying to maybe quote a little bit lower than I really would like to see other things, and just like, yep, here's what it costs, here's what needs to happen. And still, he might look at my text about the bond and be like, no, I can't shell out 12% of the plane's value. Okay, I don't care. I want to do this. I like going to Alaska. It'll be an adventure. It'll be good for the videos. I'm confident that I can find something going up. And that's another thing. I told him it's going to be 2 months, no guarantee. So if it's 3 months, if I told him when we talked yesterday, I'm not going to Alaska until I find something going up there. And if you want to pay me mileage on the way up, I'll turn around as soon as I'm done with everything I have currently lined up, and I'll go right up there. So I can still offer that to him. Like, hey, if you want, I'll head out today. This is how much it will cost. Moving on. Let's see what this is. Battle Creek, Michigan. Interesting. Hello, this is Jimmy on a recorded line. Hello?
Hi, this is Lori calling from Folsom Insurance. I was calling to see, the other day I spoke with you and I was trying to transfer you to an agent for a commercial insurance quote.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you're still needing?
Yeah, I kind of lost interest a little bit though because I never heard back. It's so I kind of lose trust really quickly because I've had the experience where my agent just becomes a ghost after I purchase the policy. So.
Right. I know that I tried to transfer you, but it dropped. So I sent it to your email to Lainey, and she was emailing what we had on file. It looks like probably 3 different times. But I can actually transfer you over to her.
Sure, yeah, I talked to Lainey on the phone. She said she was going to call me back. So that's kind of where we lost each other, I guess.
Okay. I can go ahead. Do you want me to transfer you over to her? She is here today.
Sure.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
That first phone call I received when I answered the phone with, "Hi, this is Jimmy on a recorded line," actually turned out to be one of the very few phone calls that I've received lately that was not about my business. So I was rather embarrassed that I started the call that way. It was a call back for a teaching position that I had applied to recently, and I was definitely very interested and thankfully moved on quickly from that rather aggressive way of opening up the phone call. But I have unfortunately found that it's in my best interest to record any call that has to do with business. The van continues, of course, to have problems starting, but so far it doesn't seem to have gotten a whole lot worse. The day went on and on. I still had 12 hours plus of driving left, and I didn't get going until around 10:30 or 11 a.m. Actually, I think I got up around 10:30 a.m. I took the time to make a video diary for the previous day. I received a couple of phone calls. I sent and received several texts and took care of other business. I didn't get going until noon or just after noon, meaning that I wouldn't get to my destination until after midnight. And the day just seemed to drag on. Eventually, I passed the time listening to music. I drank a small Monster and got a little bit of a second wind after 6 p.m. But it's things like this that definitely make me want to consider taking a different type of job, and the teaching position that I got the call back on earlier in the day seems very appealing. I also spent a lot of time thinking about whether or not I wanted to try to get commercial insurance again and run my business at the commercial level. On one hand, it seems like the natural progression to step up to a way of doing business where the revenue can increase significantly and where it's easier and more standardized to find loads, where I could easily hire somebody and know that there will be consistent work for them, where I can go on load boards, call up brokers, and know that there are multiple load options leaving from within 100 miles of any possible place that my driver could be. and I don't have to make those individual personal connections with customers every time I want to book something. But on the other hand, it feels rather parasitic when I am paying $20,000 plus per year to an insurance company that will not have my back when I need them. Not when I need them to do me a favor, but just when I need them to do what I have paid over $20,000 in that year for them to do, and have a government agency breathing down my neck as if I've already done something wrong, and I have to prove that I haven't, when I'm actually going out of my way and spending a huge amount of time and energy to try to do everything right, according to them, not according to me or according to my customers who really don't care, but according to them. So is it worth it? Is it the right thing to do? Is it necessary? Is it inevitable? Is it the natural progression